Hello, Moriah. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Why don't you
Great.
tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Well, I've been a channel for an Ascended Master for about 26 years. And we run a school, my husband and I run a school in Western Massachusetts for metaphysics and spiritual growth, consciousness growth. I'm also a soul psychologist, psychotherapist. I've been in private practice for about 28 years. Uh, I've written a few books, and I was a columnist for a magazine, and I'm very interested in the new consciousness and where we are going as a human race, what the new human being is going to be like.
Yeah, exactly. You know what attracted me to your book
Uh-huh.
and ultimately to you was I've always liked this quote by Einstein. He said that we're never going to come up with the solutions from the same level of consciousness that created the problems.
Yes.
And that sort of tells me something that, I mean, we are in crisis right now. On this planet,
Yes.
everything is at the tipping point. And
Yes.
I can only see three things that's going to help us. One, if the God of the old Bible shows up, you know, the capricious, jealous, vengeful God, uh, I'm not too sure that that's going to happen.
Okay.
The other one would be if an advanced race is watching us and looking out for us and going to come at an opportune time.
Mm-hmm.
But the one I think is more credible is a shift of consciousness,
Yes.
because
Yes.
I can feel that, and maybe that even in conjunction with an advanced race helping us.
Yes.
As odd as that sounds, but you know the evidence is leading us to believe that there may be help on the horizon if we can come as a global consciousness up to a certain level.
Yes.
What do you have to say about that?
I love that description. That's great. I feel the same way. We're shifting into the Aquarian Age, and the Aquarian Age is known as that we will all be awakening to our higher mind, so to speak, through group collaboration, through group awakening. The Aquarian Age is it's a very electrical process. Aquarius rules electricity, sudden change, radical revolution, genius. And so we have the potential as we make the shift of the ages to wake up intuitively, to have much greater access to our higher minds, and to leave some of the rote negativity of the lower mind that's kept us so limited. As we do that, of course, our vibratory rate is increasing. The vibratory rate on the planet is increasing. We're experiencing tremendous acceleration in energy, and that is evolving us really, really quickly if we just rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
Many of us are working on that, and others are, they're resisting and kind of digging in a little bit. My sense is that from the Ascended Master that I channel, the Tibetan, that there is certainly the Ascended Masters, or what I call Earth School faculty, are tremendously present at this juncture, as well as our linkage with the extraterrestrial family, with other beings in the spirit plane and the etheric plane, to assist us in this rapid movement of awakening. And because the vibrational rate is so accelerated, it's stimulating the Kundalini energy, and it's moving very quickly, regardless of whether we're meditating or not. It's just moving, which is exciting and at the same time challenging, because it's kicking up all of the old blockages that need to be resolved, and people are feeling overwhelmed and flooded by so much inner disturbance, not to mention the disturbance on the planet. So it's hard for people to realize that this is a portal or an entryway into a time of spiritual renaissance. It's people often are wondering, how bad can things get, things like that. I agree with you. I think we have an opportunity to awaken ourselves very quickly. Yeah.
They could get pretty bad, and I probably they probably will get worse as we go through this transition, because we're going to have two different systems overlapping for a while, the old system and the new. And it sort of brings to mind, I mean, I'm a guy, so I can't really relate to this entirely, but I've watched childbirth, and it seems like the thing that makes it so painful is if the mother is afraid. And that fear factor changes the whole dimension, the whole experience of childbirth, from one of pain to actually orgasmic pleasure. And I think we can learn from that as a society, because if we can let loose of our fear, this is going to be the ride of a lifetime. And it might be even why some of us are here to take this, because we can take this experience with us to other realms and maybe help other worlds at some point.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. It's interesting that you talk about the process of birth, because I think it's the first or second chapter in my book, Making the Shift. There's a whole part of it that's describing humankind we're going through a labor. It's the birth of a new cosmic day, and the birth of this new cosmic day is not only our Earth and our new human being, our new world order, it's also the intergalactic family. It's the larger universe in which we live. And the Tibetan often refers to it as the labor, the contractions, and that we're going through what we would consider severe labor pains. And how do we hold the focus, and how do we remember that it's a birth? Like you said, it could be an orgasmic process, and ultimately we have that potential. At the same time, we can get caught up in the pain and forget that this is, we think it's the end times or total destruction. And in reality, there's a birth that's coming out of this that's quite remarkable. And so we have the opportunity, as we talk to each other and share, just like the coach with the birthing mother, keep breathing, keep focusing, keep the heart open. Remember what's really going on here. We're getting stretched. It's like we're dilating. It's like our consciousness itself is getting stretched, and it's very exciting and yet very challenging too. And I'm sure a lot of us would like the birth process to be over. And my sense of it, my understanding of it is we're very much still right in the middle of the process.
Yeah, we're right at the
right. Exactly.
One of the chapters I liked best was moving into the mystery, because something I've noticed, I wrote a book on beliefs, and in the process of writing that book, I did what I was writing about, which is dismantling beliefs. And it became obvious to me that there are hundreds of millions of people on the planet today that organize their whole lives around Iron Age ancient beliefs, when we had not even a rudimentary knowledge of our world and our planet. And I started looking at beliefs, and I realized that most of our beliefs are a piece of knowledge, I guess you could call it loosely, that sort of fills in a gap, or when we hit a wall, and every belief actually defines the limits of our understanding.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so as we go into this, I think it's going to be really, really important to raise our consciousness and be able to embrace the mystery. Would you like to talk about that?
Yes. I love how you describe the beliefs being right at the edge of our consciousness. It's very interesting, because when we consider, I believe in reincarnation. I believe we've had many lifetimes on the planet, and we've set up a belief system from experiences that we've had many lifetimes ago, belief systems that of course are limited, and then as we evolve, we still have that attachment to those beliefs. They're false beliefs, and yet our creative filter would keep generating the same story over and over again through that false belief structure. And I agree that part of it is it's a way to fill in the mystery, because usually when we face the mystery, we want to fill it in with something, and we fill it in with something from the past. What's interesting about moving into the Aquarian Age is that it's so new. It's so absolutely radically new that we need to tolerate, I shouldn't say tolerate, we need to embrace the mystery because that's the segue into such a radical new reality. And yet the first thing that happens when we encounter the mystery is all of the false beliefs and all of the history that we're just projecting forward. So it's a process of being willing to examine our belief systems, and your book sounds wonderful, and really look at the ones that are keeping us confined and frightened and separate, and then looking at what happens when we look at the mystery, what happens when we get up to the mystery. Do we, can we handle that much not knowing, And we are being asked to do that at this juncture.
When I first started to really get honest with myself and let myself sort of, it almost feels like you're falling from a great height when you approach the mystery of existence.
Yes.
And you want to come up with some idea, some belief or something, but the moment I really let myself go into the mystery, the first thing that occurred to me is that they don't call it a mystery for nothing. It's a mystery probably because with our biological minds that we have right now, I mean, I can't grasp infinity or any of these terms that go beyond the boundaries of my linear thinking. And maybe the mystery at this point is something for us to experience and to live fully without encapsulating it in some kind of a belief.
That's beautiful. That makes us so available to the new. As you said, if we cling to these beliefs to give some parameters for our experience, in some ways we're blinding ourselves to what's happening. And the more that we can sit in absolute not knowing, which means leaving the tyranny of the lower mind and all of that, patterns of thought, so that we can open up to the vast expanse. And my understanding is that the segue into the great knowing or the higher intuitive valve is the mystery. And the interesting thing about it is if we didn't project our fear onto the mystery or our past, we could just enjoy it. It's really a deliciously beautiful, wonderful place. It's we don't have to know there. We can just be and see.
Yeah, we don't have to pretend like we know things we don't.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is basically what most beliefs are. It's just a pretense. But the dangerous part is we forget that we started out pretending. And then our egos form personalities around it, and you become, I am a Republican, I am a Muslim, I am a whatever the belief is. And we're not. We are human beings, spiritual human beings. And it's so important to be grounded in right now, in this expanding moment, because this is where it's all happening. And I talk to so many people, and I can see the difference. If they're locked into some kind of a belief, whether it's political or national or whatever, they're automatically, by definition, divided. And in that division, they form groups to form like a feeling of strength and power. And then we organize our military around some of these beliefs. And here we are today, where these beliefs that are thousands of years old, that date back to actually a family feud between the Arabs and the Israelites, it is threatening to bring our world to a screeching halt. And I think it's so important to do what you're doing, just getting information out there from other realms, because be truthful with you, most people walking around, they don't have time to do this. They don't have time to read books, write. They have 4 kids, they're dealing with mortgage payments, the bank, and putting gas in their car, And if you can bring this information down to a everyday level and make
Yes.
it accessible to people, it triggers little things in their minds. And each little mind that gets triggered opens us up to this finer, larger global mind.
Yes, I love that. That's a beautiful description. Um, my sense is that from having been a therapist for so many years and having the opportunity to work with people's souls and having the honor to enter that sacred domain, I'm finding more and more people, even what we would call conventional or traditional people, asking these questions like, what's going on here? And hungry, just like they're soul hungry. I'm not talking about religions, I'm simply talking about the soul or the greater aspect of ourselves, and they're feeling some kind of call at some level, even if they don't know how to assimilate it. And all the little light centers in the brain are starting to trigger because of this electrical impact of the shift of the ages. We're moving into a highly electrical time, and therefore everything's getting stimulated, and people are, wait a minute, what's going on? And so they're living their third dimensional, okay, got the kids, the mortgage, the house, whatever, and at the same time their souls are calling them, and they're kind of in this transition of trying to make sense of this new reality. It's like I think a lot of people are noticing that normal is leaving, that we're losing normal, and that we don't know where we are. And as the acceleration in the political scene, people auguring in with their beliefs, and it's like the last stages of duality, which my understanding from the Tibetan is that we are leaving the realm of duality as we enter into a new multidimensional consciousness, where the entrenchment in a dualistic learning format is now going to be breaking down. So this is like the tail end of the extremist dualistic approach to life, us versus them.
So tell me a little bit about the Tibetan. How did that come about?
Well, about 26 years ago, a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to have a channeled reading. I didn't even know what channeling was, and I said sure. And I met the Tibetan through another channel, and the first thing he said is, "When are you going to let me in? You agreed to channel me." And I'm like, I did. I was totally shocked. I was not looking for anything like that. And somehow after that hour of sitting with him, I agreed that I would try to open my channel and work with him. And that was 26 years ago, and it's been quite a process of, I'm a conscious channel. I had to clear out blockages in my heart chakra. I had to learn to trust, work with his energy, acclimate to the voltage. His voltage is much more potent than mine. And then trust has been the really big process, validation and trust that this is indeed real. It's interesting working with a being on the spirit plane. There's no measurable way to say, okay, boom, 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 this is a real. However, then I started a school. My husband and I started a school, and so many, many, many people have sat with the Tibetan. And after all these years, I can feel his field of energy. I can feel the presence of him. I could feel how his energy feels running through my body. And then, of course, speaking from that perspective to people is it's very different from my own perspective. So it's been a very accelerated, exciting shift in my consciousness to have the honor to work with this ascended master. And I've known him for many lifetimes. And he's very active now on the earth plane. Many of the masters are. As you said, we're getting so much help. He likes to say that this birthing process that's going on planet Earth is the main attraction in the universe, and all the forces that be are basically circling around the Earth plane and humankind to support us and usher us forward. We're getting tremendous help because of the critical nature, I'm not saying dangerous nature, but the critical nature of such a powerful shift in vibratory rate. and the need for humankind to collaborate with the assistance that we're getting and step up and mature and take responsibility and participate at this level. And this is just the beginning, because as we move into multidimensional consciousness, interaction with the spirit plane and ascended masters and extraterrestrial friends and all kinds of beings, it's going to be very, very natural. We won't feel like we have to be insulated as if we're the only beings in the whole universe.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what you're talking about is probably a natural course of events. You know, it's probably like a planetary awakening. I mean, Pierre de Chardin talks about this. He calls it the new sphere, where humanity will connect like a biosphere around the planet, and the planet itself will awaken. But I think we're at this critical junction where our technology has outrun our spiritual consciousness, and that's a dangerous place right there. And so it's up to a lot of us to. I like one of the sayings that come out of the Middle East: believe in Allah, but tie up your camel first.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and it's a balance. We need to do everything that you're talking about. You know, like really concentrate and focus on opening up and manifesting a new world, and at the same time keep an eye on our government, the military, and everything that's going on. And this is the reality of the situation, because I meet so many spiritual people that think that they can just meditate and aum this away, and it doesn't work that easy. We need to pay attention, become I guess you would call it spiritual activism. You know, we need to be active in all planes of existence right now and take responsibility. And that's another thing I liked about your book, because it actually looks at some of the problems that we have today, and we need to deal with them.
We do. And the process of transformation of the blackening, the 3 stages of transformation of turning lead into gold, the blackening stage, the negredo stage, the whitening stage, it just eludes me right now, the albedo stage, and the gold, which is the rubedo stage. We're in the blackening stage. Everything, in order to really shift, there's this process of disintegration and decay and breaking down. And as we look at our world, we see all the systems, the political system, the educational, the health system, the financial system, all of it. It's just the environment. It's all just black. You know, it's breaking down. And the more that we can be conscious that this is part of transformation, and that we're called to touch into all the places that need to be broken down, and be fully conscious of that, so we can work with it, so that then we go into the albedo, the white, where we're cleansing and purifying and releasing, like shedding everything, and then we end up in the gold. And the gold, I think, my understanding, is the spiritual renaissance that is available to us. The Tibetan talks a lot about maturation, that humankind is on a big maturation curve, that we've got to get out of the playpen. We have to grow up and take full responsibility for everything that we've manifested here, which is exciting, because we're going to have the potential to have a much broader range of experience than we've ever known possible. And yet we have to take responsibility for all of the whole situation. So I agree, it is pray to Allah and tie up the camel, for sure. And my understanding as a therapist is that the beginning point of all of this is internal, is as people are clearing out their shadow and getting in touch with the denied parts of themselves and all of those unresolved, unilluminated parts, and they start working and healing and taking responsibility, then they start to transform, their consciousness shifts, and then they help others do the same. And naturally, out of that comes a breaking down of the old world order, a breaking down of the old structures that were based on limitation and fear, and then together as one global family, then we start to build the new world order, whatever that's going to look like.
Right.
But clearly, it'd be new. And I agree, it feels very like we're right on the razor's edge. Yeah.
Yeah, razor's edge is a good way to look at it too, or a tipping point.
Tipping point.
Because,
yes.
like, if we were looking at scales, it's been so off balance for so long
Yes.
that we've been piling on goodness and positive thinking here and not really seeing anything happen. But now it's starting to tip.
Yes.
And now we're starting to see the slightest little thing we do is tipping it more and more and more. And
Yes.
all we have to do is keep up right now, because
Yes.
I think we're on the verge of something. The Christians call it the awakening of Christ consciousness, and every religion talks
Yes.
about this, but from usually a patriarchal ego filter, you know. But
Yeah.
as it comes out, if you can just follow it back to what the masters said originally, and
Yes.
really glean what they meant from those words, I think we're all talking about the same thing. You know, we're talking
Yes.
about a point in time. I mean, they built pyramids to point at this time.
Yeah.
This is a
Yes.
point in time when we're tipping back towards awakening. And
Yes.
I can't think of anything more exciting than to be here now.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Oh.
It's really amazing. It's such an honor, and so scary. It's such an honor, and it's so scary, and there's so much in between, and I agree that we're all the whole issue of the Christ consciousness, which is my understanding is it's the vehicle of unification, of oneness, of true communion, and learning to trust our hearts and follow our hearts. And the Tibetan often indicates that we barely scratch the surface of knowing what it is to love. I mean, we explore love, we share love, and yet it's just a tiny little piece compared to what we're capable of. My understanding is with the infusion of the Christ consciousness. I don't say that from a religious perspective. I say that simply from a metaphysical perspective. That the impact on the collective heart chakra is becoming enormous, and is going to become even more enormous, so that the sense of community, and oneness already will have a tremendous alchemical impact on the terrible division or divisive aspects that have caused so much suffering on the planet. So we're called to look into our hearts to see if there's any blockage in there, or fear, restriction, because my understanding is that as this energy comes through, the electricity, the Christ consciousness, the wave of love, the heightened frequencies, the new light factor, the release of duality, all of these things, it's really going to affect the heart, and that we're going to have an opportunity to really experience what love really is. That's my understanding. Not that we haven't been loving, it's just that it's been a certain level compared to what we're capable of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even listening to you speak right now, I feel something in my chest area, and
Yay.
this hasn't always been. You know, I think that's why I like reading a book like yours, because it comes across to male energy also, you know. And this is what we need. We need to have more men wake up to their feminine aspect, to start dismantling these patriarchal organizations. And then we need more women to come out and start claiming their power back that's been taken away from them for centuries.
Yes.
And if we can both do that, all work together, we're going to give birth to a planet, I believe, a planetary consciousness. Be like the same thing that if I was a cell inside the heart and you were a cell inside the heart, and we're these individual cells, but we sense that we're part of an organ. And if we can wake up to that organ, imagine waking up to the organism of a human being from a cellular point of view. You would have vision and hearing. what are we going to wake up to when we wake up to a planetary consciousness and eventually even a solar and galactic consciousness? I mean, these are like realms of perception that are so far beyond our human cellular consciousness now that we can't even imagine it. But I really feel it. I feel something happening in my heart.
This is wonderful. So as you describe that, then that makes me feel it more too. And that's how we collectively awaken each other. The Tibetan often says the Aquarian Age is not the age of gurus. Not that we've had wonderful gurus for the most part, wonderful teachers. It's just that it's not the age of Pisces, which is what we're leaving, was more a devotional pathway, or the singular mystic, following the guru, allowing the guru to create a vibrational field that would evolve us. And now with the shift of the ages, it's this people talking to each other. It's this people getting together and sharing their truth like we are right now, and some kind of transmission going on between us and in groups. And that's the mutual awakening process that is not only available to us now, but is divinely mandated. And what you were saying before about the feminine and the masculine was interesting. My understanding is there's a lot of talk about the return of the divine feminine, which my understanding is that, just like you were saying, it's just a balancing out of the masculine and feminine. And my understanding is it's all a resolution of the distortions in the duality. And as the divine feminine, and I see the mystery as the divine feminine, and that's why if we can bask in that not knowing and feel the divine feminine, then we naturally allow the power of the divine feminine to come through in equal measure to the divine masculine. So it's not a competition and a power struggle. It's very childish, all that stuff. The Tibetan says, if we can imagine ourselves in kindergarten, and what would it be like to be receiving our PhD? I mean, there's a huge difference. And that's, I think, what you're describing, that we could actually go from certain parameters of consciousness and reality and then have such a vast expansion, as if one day we're in kindergarten and the next day we're in our PhD program. It's that vast. So yes, and of course, for women, it's all the inner male and female energies anyway inside that need to be balanced and honored, so that mystical union inside can be part of our willingness to have a mystical union with the divine feminine and masculine. And then the craziness, the fear, it's all fear. If the masculine has been overpowering the feminine, it's just fear. And all of that's needs to be resolved. We have a lot of work to do, don't we?
A lot of work. And actually, I think we're doing it. This is part of it. I mean, what we're doing right here is an outer manifestation of what's happening spiritually. We're starting to connect.
Yes.
And even with the people watching this, the people that are watching this, they're connecting with us. And it's a very mysterious thing, but it is happening.
Yes.
So what would you like to say in closing?
I love what you just said about the transmission of energy with people watching, that to stay open, that we need to simply stay open, to suspend conclusions, to accept that we're in the mystery, and to celebrate that this is a birth process, and that we have the honor to be here and to be a vital part, each one of us, a vital part. We each hold a very specific key to this, to the new paradigm, and that we now have all the assistance we need to uncover what that key is in each one of us, so that we could step forward and take full responsibility for our participation. And then, as the Tibetan just likes to say, to celebrate everything that we don't know that is actually coming into our consciousness at this juncture. So
That sounds like a good place to end this. And I really appreciate you taking the time for this.
thank you. And
All
thank
right.
you so much for having me.
You're welcome.